3 days. That's how close he came to $277 million. David Mitchell looked his wheelchair-bound son in the eyes and said the words no child should ever hear. I didn't sign up for a broken kid. He walked out, took his pregnant mistress to Miami, left his exhausted wife with 2 kids, a mountain of medical debt, and exactly $4,210 in the bank. But there was something David didn't know. 3 days before he served those divorce papers, a letter arrived. An inheritance. Not thousands, not millions. $277 million. By the time he found out, the divorce was final. The money was legally protected. And Emily, she transformed into the powerhouse CEO he never imagined existed. But when their son's life hangs in the balance, Emily faces an impossible choice. Is revenge worth more than redemption? Can you forgive the man who called your child broken when only he can save that child's life? This is the story of the $277 million mistake. And I promise you, it's not what you expect. Stay until the end, because the real twist? It'll change how you think about revenge forever. They say timing is everything. If I had opened that letter when it arrived, maybe everything would be different. Or maybe this is exactly how it needed to happen. The certified envelope sat propped against my coffee maker like an accusation. Morrison and Associates, estate law. The return address meant nothing to me that Tuesday morning. I pushed it aside, just like I pushed aside everything that wasn't immediately necessary for survival. Mom, I can't get my spoon to work right. Jake's voice pulled me back. 8 years old, brilliant mind trapped in a body that didn't cooperate. Cerebral palsy had stolen his ability to walk normally, to grip things easily, to do 100 small tasks most people never thought about. But it hadn't touched his spirit. I guided his hand gently, helping him scoop oatmeal. There you go, buddy, you almost had it. I want to do it myself, he said, frustration creeping into his voice. I know, and you will. We just practice until it gets easier. The baby monitor crackled to life. Lily, 6 months old, announcing her presence with increasing volume. I glanced at the clock. 7:15. David should have been up by now, helping with breakfast before work. Where's Daddy? Jake asked, echoing my thoughts. Daddy had an early meeting, I lied. David had come home past midnight, sleeping in the guest room. Again, the 3rd time this week. I heated Lily's bottle while Jake worked on his breakfast. The physical therapist said the adaptive utensils were helping. Small victories. That's what our life had become. A collection of small victories that somehow never added up to winning. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, Jake's physical therapist. Don't forget Jake's appointment at 2. He's making real progress with the new braces. I smiled. Marcus Reynolds was one of the good ones. Patient, encouraging, never treating Jake like he was broken. If only David could see our son the way Marcus did. Mom, can I have my iPad after breakfast? After you finish and get dressed, yes. Jake beamed. His iPad was his gateway to independence. Educational games designed for kids with motor challenges. He could navigate it better than I could. The front door opened. David walked in, suit already on, tie knotted perfectly. He looked like success. Mid-level insurance sales manager, climbing the corporate ladder. He worked hard, I reminded myself, provided for us. But he didn't look at Jake, hadn't looked at Jake, really looked at him, in months. Morning, I said. There's coffee. Can't stay. Early presentation. His voice was clipped, distant. Daddy! Jake's face lit up. Watch, I can hold my spoon for 10 seconds now. David glanced over, barely. That's great, champ. Daddy has to run. The light died in Jake's eyes. I watched it happen, had watched it happen 100 times. Each dismissal, a small death. David, wait. I followed him to the foyer. We need to talk. You've been distant lately. I'm working, Emily. Someone has to pay for all the medical bills. The words stung, as if I didn't know about the bills, as if I hadn't spent countless hours on the phone with insurance companies, fighting for coverage, begging for payment plans. That's not fair. Fair, he turned, and for a moment I saw something in his eyes. Resentment. You want to talk about fair? I didn't sign up for this life, Em. What life? Our family? A life where everything revolves around therapy appointments and adaptive equipment in special schools, where my son will never play catch with me, where my wife is too exhausted to even look at me. I felt like he'd slap me. Jake needs us. Both of us. I have to go. He grabbed his briefcase and left. The door closed. Jake called from the kitchen. Is Daddy mad at me? I plastered on a smile I didn't feel. No, baby, Daddy's just stressed about work. But Jake was 8 years old with cerebral palsy, not stupid. He knew. Later that afternoon at physical therapy, I watched Jake work with Marcus. The therapy center was bright, cheerful, equipped with everything a child with physical challenges needed. And expensive. So expensive. He's progressing beautifully, Marcus said, watching Jake transfer from his wheelchair to the parallel bars. The new braces are working. Mom, watch! Jake held himself standing for a full 10 seconds, his face fierce with concentration. Tears pricked my eyes. I'm so proud of you, baby. Marcus caught my expression. 41 years old, kind eyes, a gentleness that came from understanding pain. I knew his story, wife and daughter killed by a drunk driver 3 years ago. He'd channeled his grief into helping kids like Jake. When's the last time you slept? He asked quietly. I sleep when he sleeps. That's not sleeping. That's surviving. His hand touched my shoulder briefly. You're allowed to take care of yourself too. I wanted to laugh. Take care of myself? With what time, what money, what energy? I'm fine, I said, but I wasn't. And we both knew it. That evening, David came home at 6, unusual. He normally worked late. We need to talk, he said. Jake was doing homework at his adapted desk. Lily was in her playpen. Everything looked normal. But I felt the wrongness in the air, thick and suffocating. What's wrong? David set his briefcase down, reached inside, pulled out a manila envelope. What is this? Divorce papers. I want out. The words didn't make sense. I heard them, understood each one individually, but together they were impossible. Jake's head snapped up from his homework. What? My voice sounded strange, distant. I can't do this anymore. The therapy appointments, the medical bills, the constant need. I'm 38 years old, Em. I didn't sign up for this life. Jake needs you. I need you. His face hardened. Jake will never be normal. Every time I look at him, I see everything I'll never have. A son who plays sports. A son who doesn't need help going to the bathroom. A normal family. Daddy? Jake's voice was so small. Do you think I'm broken? David didn't answer. The silence was worse than words. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. David walked to the door and opened it. A woman stood there. Young, maybe 26. Blonde. Beautiful. 8 months pregnant. Who is this? But I already knew. The late nights, the distance, the texts he thought I didn't see. I'm Amber, she said, guilty but defiant. David and I have been together for 8 months. 8 months. While I'd been caring for our son, fighting with insurance companies, surviving on 3 hours of sleep. 8 months. We want to start fresh, Amber said. A real family. She's pregnant, I said, stating the obvious because my brain couldn't process anything more complex. Yes, David said, with a healthy baby. I deserve that chance, Emily. Jake made a sound, a sob. He wheeled toward the door. I'm sorry I'm not healthy, Daddy. I'm sorry. My legs gave out. I grabbed the table for support. Lily started crying upstairs. Jake was sobbing in his wheelchair. And my husband, the man I'd loved for 9 years, looked at me with something like relief. Sign the papers, he said. I'm asking for minimal child support. $200 a month. I'll leave quietly if you don't fight. You can have the broken kid and the mortgage. He left with his pregnant mistress. The door slammed. I collapsed on the kitchen floor. Jake rolled next to me. We cried together, mother and son, while Lily screamed upstairs and the certified letter sat unopened on the counter. A shaft of evening light hit that envelope. Morrison and Associates, estate law. I didn't know it yet, but that letter would change everything. 72 hours after David walked out, I hadn't showered, could barely eat. Lily was with my mother, who'd taken one look at me and said, I told you David was weak. As if that helped. Jake hadn't spoken since that night, sat in his wheelchair, staring at nothing. His therapist called it selective mutism, a trauma response. My 8-year-old son had been so traumatized by his father's abandonment that he'd stopped speaking. Bills covered the kitchen counter. Medical bills, therapy bills, equipment bills, $8,300. My bank account showed $4,217.38. I Googled, can I afford surgery alone? Jake needed spinal surgery. His cerebral palsy was causing progressive curvature. Without intervention, he'd lose more mobility. The surgery cost $300,000. Insurance covered $80,000. I needed $220,000. I had $4,000. The unopened letter still sat on the counter. I'd moved it several times, cleaning around it. Part of me was afraid to open it. More bad news. Another bill. Something else I couldn't handle. Marcus called that afternoon. Jake missed his appointment. Is everything okay? His father left us. Called him broken. Jake hasn't spoken since. Silence on the line. Then, that man is a coward. I don't know what to do. Bring him in tomorrow. No charge. We'll work through this together. I cried after we hung up. Marcus Reynolds, a man who'd lost everything, was offering to help for free while my husband had abandoned us for a younger woman and a healthy baby. That night, unable to sleep, I finally opened the letter. Morrison and Associates, Estate Law. Regarding the estate of Patricia Ann Hartwell. My hands shook as I unfolded the document. Dear Emily, if you're reading this, I've finally kicked the bucket. About time. 87 is long enough. You chose a simple life over my money 15 years ago. You married for love, not status. You became a mother to a special boy who needed you. I watched from afar. Yes, I had investigators. I'm rich and nosy. Sue me. I'm leaving you everything. 150 million in liquid assets, 85 million in real estate, 42 million in stock portfolios. Total approximately 277 million after taxes. But here's the catch. Don't tell anyone for 90 days. Let the dust settle on whatever life you're living. People change when they smell money. You proved you don't need money to be worthy. Now use money to build something remarkable. Love, Aunt Patricia P.S. I met your David once at a Christmas dinner. He's a weak man who resents his own mediocrity. If you're still with him when you get this, dump him. You can do better. I read it 3 times. Then I laughed. Then I cried. Then I laughed again. $277 million. David had filed for divorce 3 days before this letter was sent. 3 days. He'd called our son broken, abandoned us for his mistress, and walked away from $277 million without knowing it existed. The irony was so perfect, it felt like divine intervention. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands, dialed the number on the letterhead. Morrison and Associates. This is Emily Carter. I received a letter about Patricia Hartwell's estate. One moment, please. Classical music played. I paced the kitchen, letter clutched in my hand. Mrs. Carter, this is Harold Brennan. Thank you for calling. I've been hoping to hear from you. His voice was warm, professional. 67 years old, according to the letter. Patricia's attorney for 40 years. Is this real? I asked. The amount in the letter? Absolutely real. Your aunt was very specific in her wishes. She wanted you to have full control of the estate. My husband filed for divorce 72 hours before this letter was sent. Does he have any claim? None whatsoever. The inheritance isn't marital property. He filed before you received it. Legally, he has 0 claim. I sat down hard. He doesn't know. He thinks I'm broke. I'd suggest keeping it that way. Sign the divorce papers. Let him walk away with nothing while thinking he won. A cold smile formed on my face. The first smile in 72 hours. How long until the funds are accessible? 90 days for full legal protection. We can expedite the divorce to finalize before then. Your aunt was wise to include the waiting period. It protects you from challenges. Do it. Expedite everything. I'll need you to come to my office. Tomorrow, if possible. We have a great deal to discuss. After we hung up, I looked at Jake's bedroom door. My son, who hadn't spoken in 3 days. My brilliant, brave, beautiful boy who thought he was broken. David had called him broken, had abandoned him, had chosen a healthy baby over his own son. And now I had $277 million. I opened my laptop, Googled spinal surgery for cerebral palsy, found the best surgeon in the country, emailed his office. Then I looked up elite private schools for children with disabilities, accessible homes, adaptive technology, everything I'd ever wanted for Jake but couldn't afford. Now I could afford it all. But first, I had to play the game. 90 days of silence. 90 days of letting David think he'd escaped. 90 days of planning my son's future while my ex-husband celebrated his fresh start. I texted David, "I'll sign the papers. You're right. We both need to move on." His response came instantly. "Thank you for being reasonable. Amber and I are moving to Florida next month. Fresh start. Fresh start. With his pregnant girlfriend. While I raised our disabled son alone. Except I wasn't alone. I had $277 million and 90 days to plan. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Unwashed hair, dark circles under my eyes, defeated posture. No more. I showered for the first time in 3 days. Washed and dried my hair. Put on real clothes instead of pajamas. When I emerged, Jake was in the doorway of his room, watching me. "Mom," his first word in 3 days. "Yes, baby." "Are we going to be okay?" I knelt beside his wheelchair, took his small hands in mine. "Yes, Jake. We're going to be better than okay, I promise you. We're going to be extraordinary." He didn't understand, not yet, but he would. Harold Brennan's office occupied the top floor of a downtown skyscraper. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture spoke of old money and older power. Harold himself was exactly what I expected. 67, distinguished, sharp-eyed. He'd been Patricia's attorney since before I was born. "Your aunt spoke of you often," he said, pouring tea. "She admired your choice to live simply, said it proved you had integrity." I barely knew her. She knew you, had investigators following your life for years. She knew about Jake's disability, about David's resentment, about your struggles. I felt exposed. She watched me? She wanted to ensure her fortune went to someone who deserved it, someone who'd use it wisely. You proved yourself, Emily. Every day, for 8 years, you proved yourself. He spread documents across his desk. Trust paperwork, investment portfolios, real estate holdings. The inheritance is structured to protect you. 90 days from the date of the letter, full legal transfer occurs. During that time, tell no one. Not family, not friends, certainly not your soon-to-be ex-husband. What if he finds out? He can't. The divorce papers he filed establish the timeline. He abandoned you before you received the inheritance. But if word leaks during these 90 days, he could claim you influenced his decision. Let him finalize the divorce thinking he won. I signed on papers for 3 hours, established trusts, created accounts. Harold worked efficiently, explaining each document. Your aunt left specific instructions. She wants you to use this money to build something meaningful, not just accumulate more wealth. I want to help families like mine, children with disabilities whose parents can't afford proper care. Harold smiled. Patricia would have loved that. Before I left, he handed me a credit card. Small advance, $50,000. Get yourself proper legal representation for the divorce. Buy your son something that makes him smile. Start planning. I stared at the card. $50,000, more money than I'd seen in years, and it was just an advance on $277 million. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me. Thank Patricia, and make her proud." I met with a divorce attorney that afternoon. Top-rated, expensive, ruthless. "Your husband is asking for $200 monthly child support for 2 children, one with significant medical needs." Linda Morrison's voice dripped disbelief. "Is he mentally impaired? He wants out badly enough to take nothing. Then we'll give him exactly that. Nothing. Sign the papers. Let him walk away." David had already moved to Florida with Amber. Living in a beachfront condo he couldn't afford, buying furniture on credit, playing house with a pregnant mistress. I signed the divorce papers without an attorney present. David thought I couldn't afford one. Let him think that. Let him think he'd won. Week 1 of 90 days, I paid off all of Jake's medical debt. anonymously. The hospital never knew where the money came from. Week 2, I scheduled Jake's surgery, paid in full, charitable grant from an unnamed donor. Week 3, to Tawawin, I enrolled Jake in Riverside Academy, the best private school for children with disabilities in the state, $45,000 per year. I paid for 4 years up front. Week 4, I bought a house, not a mansion, nothing that would attract attention, but a beautiful, fully accessible home with wide doorways, roll-in showers, a therapy pool in the backyard. Jake could be independent there. Week 5, new wheelchair, top of the line, $18,000, custom fitted. Jake cried when he saw it. Week 6, I started attending Hartwell Technologies board meetings via video, camera off, learning the business, preparing. The board members knew Patricia's niece existed. They didn't know I was about to become their boss. Diane Morrison, the senior board member, addressed me directly during one meeting. Patricia's niece, finally joining us? I'm learning, I said. Don't underestimate me. Week 8, Jake started speaking again. Not much, but enough. Therapy was helping. The new school was helping. Hope was helping. Mom, he said one night, why is everything getting better? Because we deserve better, baby. Week 9, I appeared in person at a board meeting. Designer suit, confident posture. The transformation was complete. I proposed a new division, Hartwell Accessibility Technologies. 50 million Americans have disabilities. That's a $13 trillion market we're ignoring. I want to change that. The board approved unanimously. Diane Morrison caught me after. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone softer, someone grateful. You're neither. I'm grateful, I said, but I'm also Patricia Hartwell's niece, and I've spent 8 years learning that softness gets you abandoned. Strength gets you survival. She smiled. You'll do fine here. Day 89, the divorce was finalized. David sent one text. Good luck. You're gonna need it. I didn't respond. Day 90, the full inheritance transferred. $277 million. Mine. Legally, irrevocably mine. I looked at Jake playing with his new adaptive toys. At Lily, toddling in her designer nursery. At the home I'd bought them. The future I'd built. Ready to meet the new mommy? I asked Jake. You're always my mommy. Yes, but now mommy can buy you the robot dog you wanted. His face lit up. Really? Really? David had no idea. Was living in Florida with Amber, their baby due in 3 months, playing house in a condo he'd financed on credit cards, working a job that barely paid his bills. He thought he'd escaped, thought he'd won. He had no idea what he'd lost. The press conference was scheduled for 10 in the morning, Hartwell Technologies headquarters. I'd spent the night before, unable to sleep, rehearsing my speech. Harold had arranged everything. The media had been told that Patricia Hartwell's mysterious heir would be revealed. Speculation had been running wild for months. I dressed carefully. Navy suit, tailored perfectly, modest jewelry, professional but approachable. The woman I'd become over 90 days. Jake sat beside me in his new racing wheelchair. Bright blue with racing stripes. He'd decorated it himself with stickers. Are we really going on TV, Mom? Yes, baby. I'm going to tell people about something important. About me? About a foundation I'm starting. The Jake Carter Foundation for Exceptional Children. His eyes went wide. It's named after me? Every child with a disability deserves what you have now. Good equipment, good therapy, good education. I'm going to make sure they get it. The press room was packed. Cameras, reporters, the entire board of Hartwell Technologies. Diane Morrison stood at the back, arms crossed, smiling slightly. I took the podium. Microphones bristled in front of me. Cameras clicked. Good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Emily Carter. I'm the niece of Patricia Hartwell, founder of Hartwell Technologies. 3 months ago, my aunt passed away and left me her entire estate. Today, I'm announcing that I'm taking over as CEO of Hartwell Technologies. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I'm also announcing the Jake Carter Foundation for Exceptional Children, a $50 million endowment to provide equipment, therapy, and education for children with disabilities. I gestured to Jake beside me. This is my son, Jake. He has cerebral palsy. He uses a wheelchair. He's brilliant, funny, and brave. And for 8 years, I struggled to afford his care. No family should struggle like that. No child should go without proper equipment because of pain. The cameras focused on Jake. He waved, grinning. The foundation will serve families across the country. Free adaptive equipment, subsidized therapy, scholarships to specialized schools, because every child deserves a chance to thrive. After the speech, reporters swarmed me with questions. Where have you been for 3 months? Taking care of my family? What will you do differently than your aunt? Focus on accessibility technology. It's an underserved market with tremendous potential. Is it true you're a single mother? Yes, my divorce was finalized last week. I didn't mention David's name. Didn't need to. The story would find him anyway. The news hit at noon. Every major outlet picked it up. Mystery heiress revealed Emily Carter inherits $277 million fortune. Single mother becomes CEO, establishes foundation for disabled children. From struggling mom to tech titan, the Emily Carter story. In Miami, David was scrolling through his phone over coffee. Amber was at a prenatal yoga class. He was alone in their expensive condo, surrounded by furniture they couldn't afford. He saw the headline, clicked the link. His coffee mug hit the floor and shattered. He called me immediately, hands shaking, voice cracking. What the hell? You're a billionaire? I'd been expecting this call, had rehearsed my response. I inherited $277 million from my Aunt Patricia. The letter came 3 days before you served me divorce papers. 3 days? You knew? No, David. I opened the letter the day after you left, while our son was crying himself to sleep, asking, Daddy doesn't love him anymore. This isn't fair. We were still married. Were we? You filed for divorce. You moved to Florida. You started a new family. The inheritance came after you already abandoned us. Legally, morally, and in every way that matters, you have no claim. I deserve half. I was your husband. His words made me laugh, actually laugh. You were my husband when you called our son broken. You were my husband when you said you didn't sign up for this life. You gave up that title before the money ever arrived. Emily, please. I made a mistake. We can work this out. No, David, we can't. Sign the papers. Move on. You wanted minimal child support? Congratulations. That's exactly what you're getting. $200 a month. Enjoy your fresh start. I hung up. He called back 17 times. I blocked the number. David's world collapsed in stages. Beautiful, brutal stages. First came the financial reality. He'd financed everything on credit. The Miami condo, the furniture, Amber's car, all assuming Emily would struggle while he built his new life. Now the bills came due. His credit cards maxed out at $8,400. The bank called daily. Mr. Mitchell, your account is overdrawn. His car payment was missed. Repossession notice arrived. Amber found the notices. I thought you said we were stable. I had a plan. Emily was supposed to struggle, not become a billionaire. You based our entire future on your ex-wife failing? The second collapse came from Amber herself. She Googled David Mitchell, ex-wife, found the articles, read them all, found the part about Jake. You told me your son had mild learning disabilities, she said, voice shaking. He has cerebral palsy. He uses a wheelchair. It's complicated. You lied about everything. Your finances, your bond, your ex. Were you ever going to tell me Emily is worth $277 million? I didn't know. But you left her when you thought she had nothing. You left your disabled kid for this? She gestured at their empty condo. I'm done. She packed, left, took her unborn baby with her. Where will you go? David asked. Anywhere but here. My baby deserves better than a father who abandons disabled children. The third collapse was public humiliation. Someone leaked the story to tabloids. TMZ picked it up. Heartless dad left disabled son for mistress. Ex-wife now worth $277 million. David's photo appeared everywhere. His phone exploded with messages. His mother, how could you, David? His friends, dude, you're that guy? His boss called. We're letting you go. We can't have this kind of PR associated with our company. Eviction notice came next. Without Amber's income, without his job, he couldn't pay rent. 3 months after leaving Emily, David sat on the curb outside his former condo, suitcase beside him, scrolling through photos of Jake as a baby. He'd thought leaving was the brave choice, the smart choice, trading a hard life for an easy one. Instead, he'd walked away from $277 million. And more importantly, he'd walked away from a son who still loved him despite everything. Meanwhile, Emily's empire grew. Magazine covers, CEO Mom of the Year, speaking engagements, board positions, advocacy work. Jake thrived, new school, new friends, happy. Marcus Reynolds became a regular presence, coffee dates that became dinners, slow, careful courtship. He understood grief, understood single parenthood, understood that Emily needed a partner, not a savior. The foundation launched 3 more initiatives. Emily's net worth grew to $310 million, but something felt incomplete. I thought revenge would feel better than this, she told Diane during a board meeting, because revenge isn't victory. Building something better is. Then why do I still feel empty? Diane studied her. Because destroying him didn't fill the hole he left. Only building something bigger than your pain can do that. Emily thought about that a lot over the following weeks. Revenge had been satisfying. Watching David lose everything, knowing he'd thrown away a fortune. But it hadn't healed her, hadn't healed Jake. Building the foundation helped. Helping families helped. But something was still missing. She didn't know what until her phone rang at 2 in the afternoon during a board meeting. Hey, Carter, this is Principal Stevens from Riverside Academy. Jake collapsed during gym class. We've called an ambulance. Emily's world stopped. County General Emergency Room, fluorescent lights, antiseptic smell, machines beeping, Jake on a gurney, seizing, doctors swarming. What's happening? Emily's voice came from somewhere far away. Dr. Chen, ER attending, spoke quickly. His cerebral palsy is causing spinal complications. He needs emergency surgery and a blood transfusion. What's his blood type? I don't know. We're testing now. Dr. Chen checked her tablet. AB negative, very rare. Do you know your blood type? B positive. The father? Emily's face went white. I don't know where he is. Dr. Chen's expression tightened. We need an immediate family match. AB negative is extremely rare. Without a transfusion, the surgery is too risky. We're looking at 12 hours maximum. 12 hours to find David. Emily called his number. Disconnected. She called Greg, David's former friend. Last I heard, he's homeless. Maybe downtown. I'm sorry, Emily. She hired a private investigator, started searching homeless shelters personally. The sight of Emily Carter, CEO of Hartwell Technologies, in a designer suit, walking through downtown homeless shelters, caused a stir. Have you seen this man? She showed David's photo to everyone. No one had seen him. 8 hours passed. Jake's condition worsened. Emily posted on social media. $50,000 reward for information on David Mitchell. My son's life depends on it. The post went viral. Millions of shares. 2 hours later, her phone rang. Unknown number. Emily, it's Greg. Someone saw David at St. Vincent's Shelter on 5th Street. He saw your post. He says he'll do it. Emily ran to her car, drove across the city, parked illegally, ran into the shelter. The courtyard was full of people, broken people, forgotten people. David sat on a bench, unrecognizable. Beard, filthy clothes, hollow eyes. He looked up, saw her, laughed bitterly. Didn't expect CEO Emily Carter to slum it here. Jake needs you. Blood transfusion. You're the only match. Why should I? You took everything. You humiliated me. The whole world thinks I'm a monster. Emily dropped to her knees in front of him. Because I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. David stared. What? You hurt me. You hurt Jake. You deserve to face consequences, but I went too far. I didn't just defend myself. I wanted you to suffer. I wanted you to feel what we felt. And now Jake might die because I destroyed you so completely I can't find you to save him. Tears streamed down her face. This is my fault. All of it. I had the power to be merciful and I chose revenge instead. Please, David, not for me, for Jake. What's in it for me? Nothing. No money, no reconciliation, just a chance to save your son's life. David looked at her for a long moment, at the woman he'd married, the woman he'd abandoned, the woman who'd become everything he'd wanted to be. Let's go. They took Emily's car. David silent the entire drive. At the hospital, nurses prepped him immediately. He saw Jake through the window, small, pale, hooked to machines. How bad? He asked Dr. Chen. Bad, but you being here gives him a chance. Marcus was there, monitoring Jake's vitals. He looked at David with open contempt. I don't deserve to save him, David said quietly. I'm the reason he's worse. Marcus's expression softened slightly. Stress from the divorce didn't help, but genetics and bad luck did this, not you. I called him broken. Then spend the rest of your life proving you were wrong. The transfusion took 3 hours. The surgery, another 6. Emily sat in the waiting room. Marcus brought her coffee. Harold drove up from his office to sit with her. At 4 in the morning, Chen emerged. The surgery was successful. Jake is stable. Emily collapsed in relief. Jake woke the next afternoon, groggy from anesthesia, confused. He turned his head, saw David sitting beside his bed. Daddy! David moved closer. Hey, buddy. You came. I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I said those things. You're not broken, Jake. I was broken. You're the strongest person I know. Jake's eyes filled with tears. Do you still think I'm not normal? David's voice cracked. Normal is boring. You're extraordinary. Are you coming home? David looked at Emily, standing in the doorway. No, buddy. Mommy and I aren't married anymore. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. Can you visit sometimes? David looked at Emily again. She nodded slowly. Yeah, I can visit sometimes. Jake smiled, fell back asleep. In the hallway, Emily and David stood awkwardly. Thank you, she said, for coming. He's my son. I should never have needed a crisis to remember that. She handed him an envelope. What's this? Job offer. Entry-level sales at Meridian Corp. $45,000 a year, not charity. You'll earn your way up, and first month's rent for a studio apartment. After that, you're on your own. David stared at the envelope. Why would you do this? Because Jake asked me if I'm happy you're suffering, and I realized I'm not. I'm just exhausted. Revenge didn't make me whole. It just made me cruel. I don't deserve this. No, you don't, but Jake deserves a father who's stable enough to visit, and I deserve to stop carrying this anger. David opened the envelope, read the job description, the apartment address. I'm signing away my parental rights, he said. You've been right all along. You're better for them. Keep your rights. We'll do supervised visits. 6 months. Then we reevaluate. The child support, $200 a month. I can't even afford that now. Keep it. Put it toward therapy. You need it more than we do. David extended his hand. Emily took it. Not friends, not even friendly, but two people who'd survived each other. I heard Amber left, Emily said. When she found out I'd lied about Jake, about everything, she's having the baby in North Carolina, with her parents. Won't let me be involved. I'm sorry. I'm not. She was right to leave. I would have been a terrible father to that baby. I already proved I'm a terrible father to the one I have. Had, Emily corrected gently, past tense. You have a chance to be better going forward. Over the next 6 months, David slowly rebuilt. The job at Meridian was entry-level, but honest. The studio apartment was small but clean. He attended therapy twice a week, and every Saturday he visited Jake. Supervised at first, at a family center. Later at Emily's home. Jake was wary initially, then gradually warmed. Children forgive more easily than adults. Want to play Mario Kart? Jake asked during the 4th visit. I'm terrible at video games. That's okay, I'll teach you. They played for 2 hours. David lost every race. Jake laughed the entire time. Emily watched from the kitchen, Marcus beside her. How do you feel about this? Marcus asked. Strange. Like watching a stranger try to know my son. But you're letting him try. Jake deserves a father who shows up, even if it's late. Marcus took her hand. You're remarkable. You know that? I'm trying to be. 18 months after the divorce, Emily stood in the enormous facility that would house the Jake Carter Foundation headquarters. The building was a marvel, fully accessible, therapy pools, adaptive playgrounds, classrooms equipped with the latest assistive technology. Jake wheeled beside her, examining everything with wonder. This is really all named after me? Every child who comes here will know that Jake Carter believes they're extraordinary. The grand opening was scheduled for next week. Media was already requesting interviews. The foundation had grown beyond Emily's wildest expectations. 12 cities, thousands of families served, hundreds of millions of dollars in equipment and therapy provided free of charge. But tonight was personal. Jake's Adaptive Sports Championship. The stadium was packed. Emily sat in the front row with Lily, now a toddler, Marcus beside them. Harold had even come. Diane Morrison sat a few rows back. And in the very back, trying to be inconspicuous, David, clean-shaven, business casual, with a woman Emily didn't recognize. Elementary school teacher, she'd heard. Someone kind, someone good for him. Jake competed in the 100-meter wheelchair race. 8 competitors, all kids with various physical disabilities. All fierce, determined, brave. The starting gun fired. Jake pushed hard. His racing wheelchair flew. He'd been training for months. He crossed the finish line third. The crowd erupted. Jake wheeled to the stands, face flushed with pride. Mom, did you see? I saw. I'm so proud. I didn't win. You never gave up. That's better than winning. Jake looked past her, saw David standing at the rail. Daddy, you came. David knelt. Wouldn't miss it, champ. You were amazing. I got third place. Third place out of everyone who said you couldn't. That makes you first in my book. Emily watched them, this broken man and his son, building something new from the ruins of what they'd lost. Later, in the parking lot, David approached her. He's thriving. We both are. I heard about the foundation campus. That's incredible. It's what the money was meant for. Not revenge, building. David hesitated. For what it's worth, I'm glad you got it. You deserve it. He deserves it. You're doing better? 6 months sober, promoted to sales lead, marrying Rachel in the fall, small wedding. Emily processed that. Jake can attend if he wants? I'd like that. They shook hands, not friends, but not enemies either. Just 2 people who'd survived each other and found separate paths forward. Marcus appeared beside Emily. Ready to go? Yes. She took his hand, picked up Lily, called to Jake, her family, the one she'd built from ashes. That night, after Jake was asleep, Emily stood in her home office, looking at the photo of Aunt Patricia on her desk. I did it, she whispered. I built something remarkable. The foundation was expanding, 12 cities becoming 20, hundreds of families becoming thousands. But more than that, she'd built a life, a real life, not defined by revenge or anger, defined by purpose. Her phone buzzed, a message from Diane. Board approved the international expansion. You're going global, Emily. Global. The Jake Carter Foundation helping children worldwide. She thought about David rebuilding his life one day at a time. She thought about Amber raising her baby in North Carolina. Emily had sent a check anonymously, $20,000 for the baby, not for David, for the innocent child. She thought about Jake, sleeping soundly in his room, speaking, laughing, thriving, and she thought about herself, the woman she'd become. Not just wealthy, not just successful, but worthy of the life she'd built. The day of the foundation campus grand opening was perfect. Sunny, 72 degrees, light breeze. Emily stood at the podium, Jake beside her in his racing wheelchair, decorated with new stickers from his sports championship. Hundreds of people filled the courtyard, families with disabled children, therapists, doctors, donors, media. Emily's speech was brief. A year ago, I was a divorced mom who thought she'd lost everything. I wanted revenge. I wanted the man who hurt us to suffer the way we suffered. And he did. She paused. Jake looked up at her, smiling. But revenge didn't heal me. It didn't heal my son. What healed us was building something bigger than our pain. She gestured to the facility behind her. This foundation will serve 10,000 children annually. It will prove that disability doesn't mean inability, that different doesn't mean less, that every child deserves a champion. She looked down at Jake. My son taught me that. He's the strongest person I know. Jake leaned into the microphone. Thanks, Mom. Can we have cake now? The crowd laughed. Emily hugged him. The ribbon cutting was ceremonial. Emily and Jake held the scissors together. The ribbon fell. The Jake Carter Foundation for Exceptional Children was officially open. Later, during the reception, Emily found herself alone for a moment, standing by the therapy pool, watching children play. A little girl in a wheelchair, maybe 6 years old, laughed as she maneuvered her chair down the accessible ramp into the water. Her mother cried happy tears. That was me, a voice said. Emily turned. David stood there, appropriate distance, respectful. What was? That mother, crying because her daughter can finally do something other kids take for granted. I should have been that dad. Crying happy tears, watching Jake achieve things. Instead, I cried because I thought his challenges reflected my failures. You're here now. 18 months too late. Better late than not at all. They watched the children play. Wheelchairs in the water, prosthetics on the deck, kids with cerebral palsy, spina bifida, limb differences, dozens of conditions, all laughing, playing, thriving. I've been volunteering, David said, at a shelter downtown, the one where you found me, helping other people who've hit bottom. That's good. Court-ordered initially, part of my probation, but I kept doing it after. Turns out helping people who've lost everything reminds me how close I came to losing everything that mattered. Emily didn't respond. Let him continue. Rachel, my fiancée, she works with special needs kids. She's taught now more in 6 months than I learned in 8 years of being Jake's father. What has she taught you? That disability isn't tragedy. It's just different. And different is okay. Sometimes different is extraordinary. Jake appeared, wheeling over quickly. Dad, Miss Rachel is here. Can she meet Mom? David looked at Emily. She nodded. Rachel was everything Emily expected. Warm, genuine, patient. Elementary school special education teacher. She looked at David with clear eyes, knowing his history, choosing him anyway. Your son is remarkable, Rachel said to Emily. David talks about him constantly. Thank you. And this foundation is incredible. I'd love to bring my students here for field trips. Anytime. We're building an education program specifically for schools. They talked for a few minutes. Then Rachel and David left, taking Jake to see the adaptive playground. Marcus appeared beside Emily. You okay? I'm good, really good. He seems different. People can change. Sometimes they need to hit bottom first. Are you glad you gave him the chance? Emily thought about it. I'm glad Jake has a father who's trying. That's all I wanted, for Jake to have what he deserves. Marcus kissed her forehead. You gave him more than that. You gave him a mother who built an empire so he'd never feel less than. That evening, after the crowds left, Emily walked through the empty facility. Her footsteps echoed in the therapy room. The pool lights reflected on the ceiling. Everything was perfect. Her phone rang. Harold. The board wants to discuss your 5-year expansion plan. 20 cities, 50,000 children served annually. Are you ready for that? I'm ready. You've done more in 18 months than most people accomplish in a lifetime. I'm just getting started. After hanging up, Emily sat on the edge of the therapy pool, dipped her fingers in the water. She thought about the woman she'd been 18 months ago, broken on her kitchen floor, her son crying beside her, her marriage destroyed, $4,000 in the bank. That woman would never believe this woman existed. But transformation wasn't magic. It was choice. Every day, choosing to build instead of destroy, to heal instead of hurt, to be better than the pain that shaped her. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jake, sent from Marcus's phone. I love you, Mom. Thank you for making different feel extraordinary. Emily smiled. That was the real legacy. Not the money, not the foundation, not the empire. The real legacy was teaching her son that his worth wasn't determined by his ability, That different was beautiful, that he was exactly who he was supposed to be. Everything else was just details. 5 years after the letter, Emily stood backstage at the National Disability Rights Convention. 20,000 attendees. She was the keynote speaker. Jake, now 13, sat in the front row. Taller, stronger, more confident. He'd had 3 more surgeries, each one improving his mobility. He could stand with braces now, could walk short distances. But he still preferred his wheelchair, called it his independence machine. Lily sat beside him, 6 years old, already fiercely protective of her brother, already understanding that family meant showing up, not perfection. Marcus was there too. They'd married 2 years ago. Small ceremony, just family. Jake had been the ring bearer, wheeling down the aisle with rings tied to his wheelchair like he'd done at the foundation opening. David sat 3 rows back, with Rachel and their daughter, Sophie, 2 years old, healthy as David had wanted. But David had learned that healthy didn't mean more valuable. He'd been consistently present in Jake's life. Every Saturday visit, every sports championship, every surgery, rebuilding trust one day at a time. Emily walked onto the stage. Applause erupted. 5 years ago, she began, I received a letter that changed my life. A letter that came 3 days after my husband filed for divorce. 3 days after he abandoned our disabled son because, quote, I didn't sign up for a broken kid. The audience gasped. They didn't know this story. That letter informed me I'd inherited $277 million. By the time my ex-husband discovered what he'd thrown away, it was too late. The divorce was final. The money was legally mine. And I had a choice to make. She paused. Let the tension build. I could destroy him, and I did, initially. I wanted him to suffer the way we'd suffered. I wanted revenge, and revenge felt good for about 5 minutes. Scattered, nervous laughter. Then I realized something. Revenge didn't heal my son. It didn't heal me. Building something bigger than our pain did. That's when the Jake Carter Foundation was born. She clicked to the next slide. Statistics. 50 cities. 150,000 children served. $500 million in equipment and therapy provided free of charge. My ex-husband is here today. He's been sober for 4 years. He volunteers at homeless shelters. He's rebuilding his relationship with our son. And you know what I learned from that? She looked directly at David. He met her eyes, nodded. I learned that the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's becoming so remarkable that their absence doesn't matter. It's building a life so full that you forget to hate them. It's teaching your children that forgiveness is stronger than bitterness. The applause was thunderous. After her speech, reporters swarmed. Do you regret the marriage? No, Jake wouldn't exist without it, and Jake is the best thing I've ever done. Do you regret the divorce? No, it taught me I was strong enough to survive alone, strong enough to build an empire, strong enough to forgive. What's next for the foundation? Global expansion. We're breaking ground in 15 countries next year. Every child everywhere deserves a chance to thrive. That evening, there was a private dinner. Foundation board members, major donors, family. David approached Emily during cocktail hour. Your speech was powerful. Thank you. Rachel cried, so did I. I meant what I said about forgiveness. I know, and I'm grateful. Every day, I'm grateful you didn't just write me off completely. Jake wouldn't have let me. He's more forgiving than I am. They looked across the room. Jake was talking animatedly with a group of teenagers, all using wheelchairs, all laughing, sharing stories. He's happy, David said. Really happy. Yes. That's because of you. Everything he has, everything he is, that's you. Emily shook her head. It's him. I just gave him tools. He did the work. You gave him more than tools. You gave him a mother who saw his worth when his own father couldn't. You see it now. Well, 5 years too late. But you see it? That matters. Lily ran up, grabbing Emily's hand. Mommy, Sophie wants to play on Jake's wheelchair. Can she? Emily laughed. Ask Jake. It's his wheelchair. Jake said yes, but I should ask you. Then yes. Lily dragged little Sophie toward Jake. He lifted her into his lap, spun the chair in circles. Sophie squealed with delight. Rachel appeared beside David. She's going to want a wheelchair now. I'll build her one, Marcus said, joining the group. Therapy wheels for kids. New project I'm working on. Wheelchairs as toys? David asked. Why not? Bikes are toys. Scooters are toys. Wheelchairs should be fun, too. The four adults stood together, Emily and Marcus, David and Rachel. Two couples, two families. Overlapping, complicated, but functional. This is weird, right? David said. Us all standing here, civil, almost friendly. Weird, Emily agreed, but good weird. Jake's lucky, Rachel said. Four adults who figured out how to coexist for his benefit. We're lucky, Marcus corrected. He taught us how. Later that night, after returning home, Emily tucked Jake into bed. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you hate Dad for leaving? Emily considered her answer carefully. Jake was 13, old enough for honesty. I did hate him for a long time, but hate is exhausting, and it was hurting me more than him. So you don't hate him anymore? No, I don't. I'm grateful for what we built after he left, and I'm glad he came back, even if it took a crisis. Me too. I like having a dad who shows up. You deserve that. Do you think you would have been happier if he'd never left? Emily thought about the woman she'd been. Small, afraid, accepting less than she deserved. No, baby, I wouldn't have. Because I wouldn't have learned how strong I am. I wouldn't have built the foundation. I wouldn't have helped thousands of kids like you. So his leaving was good? His leaving was hard. What I did after was good. Jake nodded, processing. I'm glad you got the money. Me too. And I'm glad you used it to help people. That's what Aunt Patricia wanted, to build something remarkable. Did you build something remarkable? Emily looked at her son, 13 years old, brilliant, brave, beautiful, everything good in her life. Yes, Jake, we built something remarkable. Together. She kissed his forehead, turned out the light. In her own room, Marcus was already in bed, reading. How's our guy? Philosophical, asking big questions. He's your son. Of course he asked big questions. Emily changed into pajamas, climbed into bed. Marcus, do you think I did the right thing? Helping David? I think you did the kind thing. Whether it was right or wrong, I don't know, but kindness is never wasted. Even when it's given to someone who hurt you. Especially then. That's when kindness matters most. Emily turned off the light, lay in the darkness. She thought about the last 5 years. The empire she'd built, the lives she'd changed, the family she'd created. She thought about David, rebuilding his life brick by brick. She thought about Jake, thriving despite every obstacle. And she thought about herself, the woman who'd been broken on a kitchen floor, clutching an unopened letter. That woman was gone, transformed, reborn. Not by money. Money was just a tool. Transformed by choice, by courage, by the decision to build instead of destroy. The best revenge she'd learned wasn't living well. It was living with integrity. It was becoming worthy of the power you wielded. David had thrown away $277 million. But more than that, he'd thrown away the chance to watch his extraordinary son grow. To be part of something bigger than himself. To build instead of abandon. Emily hadn't just won, she'd transcended winning. Because in the end, this wasn't about David at all. It was about Jake, about Lily, about the 150,000 children whose lives were better because of the foundation. It was about the woman Emily had become. Strong enough to forgive, wise enough to know that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, brave enough to turn pain into purpose. David had called Jake broken, but Jake had taught the world what it meant to be whole. And Emily had learned that the best victories aren't won by crushing your enemies. They're won by becoming so remarkable that your enemies become irrelevant. That was the real inheritance, not Aunt Patricia's money, but her wisdom. Build something remarkable. Emily had, and she was just getting started.